I don't know about you, but I used to be super terrified of sketchbooks, and honestly, I am still a little bit scared by them. I still find them super overwhelming, and it's mostly because I didn't understand what to put in them. I think a lot of social media and YouTubers make us believe that sketchbooks all have to be perfect and pristine and full of beautiful drawings and observations, and that makes us panic a little bit, or it certainly makes me panic a lot. But there is nothing more satisfying than a completely finished, filled sketchbook. And with that in mind, I would like to openly admit that, like in the last 5 to 7 years, I've actually only fully filled 2 of them. I have, however, started this giant stack of them. So you don't have to be quick to fill your sketchbooks, but I fully believe that you should start sketchbooks. And I'll explain in a little minute why I've got so many different types. But the first problem is that there seems to be so many ideas online about what a sketchbook actually is. Everybody seems to have their own rules about what belongs inside a sketchbook, what should be called an art book. Some people think that sketchbooks should only contain sketches and drawings. Other people think art books should only contain finished paintings. But honestly, I am at the stage where I think it does not matter. Let's not name it. Let's not label it. Let's just use them to create, play, experiment, and see what happens. So today I want you to come and sit with me while I create a fun sketchbook page. And when I sat down to film this last night, I had absolutely no clue what I was going to do and how to start. And the first thing was, the first page was scaring me, so I started on page 2. The second thing was, blank pages look really intimidating, so I filled it with lots of scraps of bits of paper, added some colour, and waited for the magic to happen. So get cozy, grab a cuppa, and let's make something magical. Now to this day, I still feel really overwhelmed when I think about filling a sketchbook, and maybe that's why I have started so many of them and completed so few. But I do now have lots of little different things that I do with my sketchbooks and in my sketchbooks, and I thought that maybe if I shared them with you guys, 1 or 2 of them might help you add things to your sketchbook too. So let's go through a few things that helped me fill my sketchbooks without feeling overwhelmed. So I used to believe that sketchbooks were for sketching and drawing, and maybe they were for mini final paintings. And that was one of the biggest things that overwhelmed me, because it always felt impossible to try and fill a sketchbook with just those things. Like, I couldn't come up with enough final ideas, and I couldn't come up with enough drawings. Most sketchbooks are around 80 pages, and that's a lot of pages to fill, especially when you think that you can fill both sides of every page. I've mentioned this before, but one of the biggest things that helped me was making my sketchbooks smaller. I used to try and work in A4 sketchbooks, and that's a lot of paper to cover, especially when you're limited on time. My little tiny sketchbooks always feel less intimidating because I know that with less amount of time, I can always make progress towards filling them up. So keeping it small, keeping it simple, and keeping it close is another great way to help fill up your sketchbooks. But I already have a whole video on that, so let's talk about some different things that you can actually put in your sketchbooks. Firstly, it doesn't just need to be drawing or painting. Yes, those are fantastic things to put in your sketchbook, and you can absolutely do that. But you can also write little notes. I've even put shopping lists in my sketchbook, or thoughts for future projects, ideas, or future YouTube videos. And you know what? I tend to find that when you're scribbling down a little note, you often end up adding a few doodles alongside them. And while we're talking about writing, you can also add some daily observations, just little moments. One of my older sketchbooks I started as a visual diary. At the end of the day, I would do a tiny little sketch, I would add a date and a few words. And it didn't need to be anything big or meaningful. It could simply be the morning dog walk with my neighbour, 4th of February 2025. That's it. But they're lovely little moments to look back on. You can also put written reflections into your sketchbook. So if you enjoy affirmations, positive thinking, or little reminders that keep you motivated, those can all go in your sketchbook too. So not everything in your sketchbook needs to be visual. Some of it can simply be written. Another thing that can go in your sketchbook that isn't drawing or painting is testing art supplies. Test old supplies, test new supplies, test things that you've forgotten you even own. If you find something in the back of a drawer, pick out the colours and make some little swatches. Write down what supplies it was and write down the names of the colours if you want to too. But you don't just need to use it for swatching, you can use it to see what the supplies actually do. One of my favourite things is to test how supplies interact with each other. Do your acrylic paint markers work on top of your oil pastels? If you don't know, give it a go. It doesn't need to be fancy. Just scribble your oil pastels and then draw a random shape like a leaf on top with your acrylic paint pens. Do they work? Do they not work? That is another fantastic way to use your sketchbook and fill some pages. I also love using my sketchbooks for inspiration collecting. So if you go out on a walk and you find a beautiful wild flower, then you can come home, you can press it and put it in your sketchbook, or you can simply just sellotape it in there. It might not last forever, but in the meantime, it's a beautiful piece of inspiration. Leaves, flowers, little pebbles, anything that you can collect can go into your sketchbook. And it doesn't just need to be things from nature. It could be magazine cuttings, images from food packaging, newspaper clippings. Maybe it's just a color combination you like, maybe it's an image you like, maybe it's the shape of something you like. All of those things can go into your sketchbook. And if you're taking inspiration photos on your phone while you're out and about and one of them really stands out to you and you've got the ability to print it, then you can print it out and just stick it in your sketchbook. You can use your sketchbook to save memories. If you're traveling and taking a sketchbook with you, maybe you're doing little doodles, some urban sketching or plein air sketching while you're away, you can add ticket stubs or bits of memorabilia from that trip. Anything that connects a memory to the thing that you were drawing can go in your sketchbook too. Sketchbooks can also be a fantastic place to explore ideas for bigger projects. Maybe you've got a vision in your head for your next big painting and you want to test it out. Then take a few pages to make some little thumbnails and sketch out things like composition, tone, placement, where should the darker areas go, where should the lighter areas go, should the tree be on the left side or the right side, where does the path look best. Those tiny thumbnail sketches can be incredibly useful. And once you've got a basic plan, you can start experimenting with individual elements of the painting too. Let's say you've got this massive big painting planned and you want to add a hedgehog, but you're nervous about putting it straight onto the final piece. Well, that's exactly where your sketchbook comes in. Paint that hedgehog in your sketchbook. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can try it once or you can try it 10 times. And once you've painted it 10 times, you might be perfectly happy to put it into your final piece. And that's one of the fantastic things about sketchbooks. Another thing that I do within my sketchbooks, but some people do in single sketchbooks, is drawing only with biro or ink. Some people refer to these as ink books because you're working with a medium that you cannot erase. And I've never been brave enough yet to dedicate a full sketchbook to just ink, but I do have like a tiny little sketchbook just sitting unused at the moment, so maybe that's the perfect size to be brave and experiment. The thing I like about working in ink is that you can rub anything out. If you make a mistake, you have two choices. Either find a way to make that mistake work on the page and turn it into something else, or if you really don't like it, just turn the page and try again. And honestly, that is quite a useful lesson. I was talking to a subscriber about exactly this recently. Sometimes we're so quick to rub things out that we never give ourselves the chance to see where the mistakes take us. Sometimes the most interesting parts of sketchbook pages happen because something went wrong. So I think working in pen and ink can be a really useful exercise. Not because it makes better art, but because it teaches us to let go of perfection a little bit more. And if you don't like the page, turn it over and start another one, because every page doesn't have to be perfect. Another thing I love doing when I don't know where to start is treating my sketchbook a little bit like a scrapbook or a junk journal. Because sometimes the hardest thing is staring at a blank page and thinking, what am I supposed to put on this? So instead of starting with a drawing, I start with simply filling the page. I'll grab some colored paper, napkins, stickers, old ticket stubs, bit of packaging, anything really, and I'll stick that down first, and then I'll add some color. And once the page isn't blank anymore, something usually starts to happen. The page starts suggesting the ideas to me, and that's actually how the page that you've been watching today started. I wasn't planning to create a magical woodland full of trees with little doors and windows. I just started filling the page. I put some things down, I added some color, I picked up an oil pastel, and I started making marks. And before I knew it, those marks started looking like tree bark. And then the idea grew from there. And that's why I don't think sketchbooks need to be for good art. They need to be for good exploration. They're places to play, places to make a mess, places to test, places just to see what happens. And because of that, I think sketchbooks can absolutely be anything that you want them to be. Now, having said that, I do have quite a few sketchbooks on the go at the same time. Not because I think you need multiple sketchbooks, but because personally I find it less overwhelming. I like knowing what each sketchbook is for. For example, I have one sketchbook that is almost entirely full of finished acrylic paintings. Those are usually my practice pieces before I teach a workshop or before I teach inside my membership, and I like having them all together. And I've also got another little sketchbook that only ever gets watercolor and pen and ink sketches in it when I'm out and about. It's because it's small, it's portable, and it works really well for urban sketching and plein air sketching. And that idea of having sketchbooks with purpose can work really well for some people. Maybe you have one sketchbook that is just for studying fruit. So then you don't have to think about what you're going to draw. You simply ask yourself, what fruit haven't I looked at yet? And it doesn't need to be fruit. Maybe you've got one for flowers, maybe it's birds, or maybe it's just landscapes. The point is that you're narrowing your choices. And sometimes that just takes away a huge amount of overwhelm. You're not choosing from thousands of possible subjects anymore. You're just choosing from one. I don't work 100% like that, but I definitely have different sketchbooks for different purposes. And for me, it means when I pick one up, I already know exactly what it's for, and that makes it easier to get started. I've also got my new tiny doodle diary, and if you want more information about joining in with this fun project, just check out my community tab. But this is actually a weekly planner where we are just doing one tiny little sketch, mark, note, drawing, anything we like every single day. No pressure, just playing. If you miss a day, it does not matter. But because you're working on lined paper, it takes away that worry about being perfect all the time. And for me, I'm just setting myself 5 or 10 minutes on a timer to complete this daily, in the hope that I will continue to show up and consistently make some art. And I think that's really what all these ideas come back to. If filling a sketchbook feels overwhelming, don't ask yourself how you're going to fill 80 pages. Ask yourself how you're going to fill 1 page, or half a page, or a corner of a page. Write a note, do a color swatch, stick in a leaf, test a pen, draw a tiny doodle. Because once you stop expecting every page to be a finished masterpiece, you suddenly discover that there are hundreds of different ways to fill a sketchbook. And hopefully some of the ideas in this video have shown you just how many ways there are to do exactly that. So if you've been feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or intimidated by your sketchbooks recently, then maybe just pick one of these ideas and give it a try this week. You don't need to do them all, you just need to start somewhere. Every tiny little mark is a step forward, and all of those little steps build up into one big leap. So remember, just play, create, relax, and you will make something magical.